In biology, a hybrid is the offspring resulting from combining the qualities of two organisms of different breeds, varieties, or species through sexual reproduction. Hybrids are not always intermediates between their parents, but can sometimes grow larger or taller than either parent. Species are reproductively isolated by strong barriers to hybridization, which include genetic and morphological differences, differing times of fertility, mating behaviors, and physiological rejection of the developing embryo. The concept of a hybrid is interpreted differently depending on the specific field of study and who you ask. In genetics, the attention is focused on the number of chromosomes. In taxonomy, the branch of science concerned with classification, the key question is how closely related the parent species are. So for example, in Tabasco, Mexico, there are two different species of monkey that overlap in a roughly 12-mile hybrid zone, the black howler monkey and the mantle howler monkey, which are considered different species because of a difference in their DNA, such as having a different number of chromosomes. They are genetically distinct and exhibit differences in social behavior, but are able to reproduce and have viable hybrid offspring, giving rise to a new species in the hybrid zone. It's interesting to note that both the mantle howler monkey and black howler monkey do not accept the new hybrid population back into either community, a sort of simian or monkey racism, and so the hybrids live in between in what primatologists call the hybrid zone. While there are genetic barriers against the hybridization process in nature, such as hybrid offspring having more illness, defects, social and other problems, it is much more common than people realize. Probably the most well-known example of a hybrid species is the liger. What is a liger, you ask?
What's a liger?
It's pretty much my favorite animal. It's like a lion and a tiger mixed. Bred for its skills and magic.
I don't know about their magical skills, but the liger is a hybrid offspring of a male lion and a female tigress. The liger is distinct from the similar hybrid called tigon, which is a male tiger and a female lioness. The liger is the largest known feline. They enjoy swimming, which is a characteristic of tigers, and are very social like lions. Notably, ligers typically grow larger than either parent species. One of the most fundamental questions about ligers, are they sterile? Can they reproduce? The answer is yes. One example was in the Munich Zoo, where a female liger gave birth to viable offspring, where the father was a lion and the mother was a liger. There have been numerous other cases of this, so despite what many people think, female ligers are not sterile, but rather they are highly fertile. A female liger can reproduce with both a lion and tigers.
On May 16th, 3 female liger cubs were born at the Novosibirsk Zoo. Their parents are a young pair, Lion Sam or Samson, and Liger Zita.
This is the second time Zita has given birth. Last fall, the young ligress gave birth to a female cub named Kiara.
That said, hybrid humans existed in prehistory. For example, Neanderthals and modern humans, or Cro-Magnon, interbred from 35,000 to about 28,000 years ago. Europeans have between 1 and 5% Neanderthal genetics, while the percentage is even greater in East Asians. Sub-Saharan Africans have a trace amount of Neanderthal DNA, even though no Neanderthal has ever been found in Sub-Saharan Africa. The reason is because after hybridization in Europe, about 30,000 years ago, hybridized Europeans entered into Africa and interbred with an archaic ghost species, which got its name because it's only been detected genetically in the DNA of people from Sub-Saharan Africa and has not yet been identified in the fossil record. So modern Africans are a hybrid race of the ghost species, which I suspect is Homo erectus or another very archaic hominin, and Europeans who already had interbred with Neanderthal. In other words, there absolutely and conclusively was no out of Africa in the sense of sub-Saharan African people with dark skin leaving Africa and magically mutating into Asians and then Caucasians. This obsolete hypothesis will go down in history as a bigger fraud than the Piltdown Man, where a baboon's jaw was glued onto a human skull and displayed in the British Museum for over 40 years as a missing link. Instead, the first fully modern human, which is Cro-Magnon, which populated Western Europe and Northern Africa about 35,000 years ago, entered Sub-Saharan and Western Africa and interbred with an archaic hominin, and this gave rise to modern Sub-Saharan Africans that never left Africa, since these genetics cannot be found anywhere else in the world. Caucasians and East Asians, for example, do not have sickle cell anemia, a disease strictly attributed to Sub-Saharan Africans, thought to have been brought about as a survival mechanism against malaria, as malaria does not develop in people with mild cases of sickle cell. There are other human biological variations between races, from the different number of vertebrae between populations, some having an extra rib, and even differences in dentation, meaning teeth. There are subtle differences, such as in earwax, as silly as that sounds, but it's taught in anthropology classrooms, and other variations that are no longer taught, such as genetic variation in IQ and behavior. Of course, the most obvious indicator of hybridization in humanity is the mystery surrounding Rh-negative blood, which is neither a good nor a bad thing, but an immune response, a natural biological barrier where the body of an Rh-negative mother attacks and tries to reject her own unborn baby, which could result in death if it were not for modern medical intervention, where the administration of a shot prevents a fatality. If humanity all evolved from the same African ancestor, the blood would be compatible, but it's not. This is why we see this phenomenon, a physiological rejection of developing embryo, as we see it in other hybridization scenarios with other animal species. Being Marxist or communist or part of an egalitarian movement does not change biological reality. Either does censorship, name-calling, or obsessive political correctness. Scientific correctness does not care about political correctness. In Japan, people often ask each other what their blood type is before dating, the same way that in the West, people ask each other what astrological sign they are. According to a 2016 study of 3,355 Japanese people, 99% knew their blood type. And ironically, I don't know my own blood type, but in my case it's by choice, as in my line of research, not knowing has helped to keep my work objective and unbiased. In Japan, blood types are considered an important indicator of a person's personality, and most of the Japanese population is type A. People with this blood type are described primarily as well organized. They are said to like to keep things neat, but can be stubborn and get stressed out easily, while valuing harmony in others. Agriculturalists are the root of blood type A, and it's been said that working collaboratively on farms developed these blood type personality traits. Blood type O is often described as optimistic, outgoing, having leadership abilities, and good at setting the mood for groups of people. They don't sweat the little things, a trait that is said to get under the skin of more sensitive A-types. They are known often for showing up late to events, but also incredibly resilient and flexible, enabling them to roll with the punches. Blood type B is generally described as having a tendency to be selfish, but on the other hand, also known and respected for their unique creativity. Blood type B has a strong sense of curiosity, but at the same time loses interest easily. Though there are a lot of positives to B types, people tend to focus on the negative aspects of sometimes being loners, which is attributed historically to ancestors that were nomadic, meaning people that roamed from place to place. Blood type AB is a hybrid of A and B, with traits from two different personalities mixed together. They're often seen as dual-natured and complicated. For example, they're shy like A types, but can also be outgoing like type B. Blood type AB is the rarest in Japan and in many other parts of the world, and the stereotype that goes with it is that AB people are eccentric. Japan, incidentally, has undergone a genetic and racial shift in its history, as prior to being populated by the current, mostly East Asian phenotype, it was primarily inhabited by the ancestors of the current minority Ainu population, who have many Caucasian features, such as facial hair. Prior to the Ainu, we have the Jomon period in Japanese prehistory, dating back to over 14,000 years ago, by what clearly was a Caucasoid type of people.
Anthropologists called them Asiatic Caucasoids because they had facial features and body hair that seemed more European than Asian. In fact, the Ainu are thought to be a remnant of a very ancient population that was once widespread in the Old World.
This is 28,000 years from China.
What we know of these early Asians is based on just a few skulls.
It's one of the earliest anatomically modern Homo sapiens in Asia.
One of them is a 28,000-year-old specimen from China, which looks very much like the 9,000-year-old spirit caveman.
And there are some marked similarities in the facial architecture.
Tremendous similarity in the shapes of the eye orbits, in the sense that they're both somewhat rectangular, similar interorbital distance, overall appearance of the orbits, the shape of the nose. But many of the features, including the very heavy mandible and the prominent symphysis here, those features are very much the same.
Hiroshi Oshima, the former Japanese ambassador to nationalist Germany, believed that the noble caste in Japan, the daimyo and the samurai, were descended from gods of celestial origin, which is similar to the German National Socialists' own belief that the Nordic race did not evolve, but came directly down from heaven to settle on the Atlantic continent. I recently made a video presentation called Atlantis and Antediluvian Anthropology, and included a link in the description if you haven't seen it yet and would like to. My name is Robert Sepehr. I'm an anthropologist. You can find my published books on Amazon. They make a great gift. Thank you to those who support me on Patreon. I'm very grateful and appreciate the support I've been receiving. There should be a link below for those who are interested. I also greatly appreciate anyone that shares these videos, so thank you. Please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the notification bell for updates. I also added links in the description to my social media accounts on Twitter and my Facebook group and page where you can post questions or make requests for future video topics. I look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments section below. Please have a wonderful weekend, and I hope to see you again soon.